Arron Banks started on the long road to Hollywood back in 2014 when he reacted to a put-down by top Tory William Hague from his manor in Bristol.
I woke up this morning intending to donate £100,000 to UKIP. I understand Mr Hague called me a nobody.
That's right.
Nobody. So in the light of that, I've decided today to donate £1 million to the party and not the 100,000 we originally agreed.
Mr Nobody is bitten back.
Well, I was hoping that Mr Hague will now know who I am.
I think after this lot, he just might do.
This is the moment Arron Banks first entered public life.
Well, I'm a self-made person. I made my money from a desk and 2 telephones. Downton Abbey was paid by, hard work.
But with Mr Banks as businessman or political high roller, what you see is not quite what you get. Old Down Manor is mortgaged, and Mr Banks doesn't live here. It's a wedding venue owned by one of his companies. Arron Banks is a multi-millionaire with a jet-set lifestyle. He's made out to be a bit like Ernst Stavro Blofeld, and this is the Bond villain's lair. Welcome to Catbrain Lane. It's somewhere near Bristol, and it's handy for the house where Mr Banks actually lives, bought for around £900,000 and with £500,000 on the mortgage. Arron Banks owns Eldon, a car insurance brokerage registered here. Its best known brand is Go Skippy.
GoSkippy.com, cheaper car insurance.
He hopes to float Eldon's parent group for 250 million quid, a valuation that got him into the Sunday Times rich list. Banks claims Eldon will make £24 million profit this year, up from only £300,000 last year. Should we believe it?
If you move from less than £500,000 profit in 1 year to 24 in the next year, I wish every other company could do that, but it's really quite big from any standard, in my opinion.
A turnaround.
A big turnaround. A phenomenal turnaround, I would say.
Arron Banks told Newsnight that the £250 million valuation is based on ongoing profit forecasts. He says new AI, artificial intelligence tech, is giving Eldon a boost. But there's been trouble with Eldon's numbers in the past. In 2013, its auditors, Baker Tilly, resigned. They said a breakdown in the relationship has occurred because, by failing to supply accurate information, management is imposing a limitation of scope on our work. Not so, says Mr Banks. The auditors resigned because of a conflict of interest. Banks also has an insurance underwriting business, Southern Rock, based in Gibraltar. It too has had problems. It seems to pay out more in claims and expenses, but it takes in premiums.
When we look at the Gibraltar market as a whole for the 2015 year end, on average the market takes in £1 of premium and pays out exactly £1 in claims and expenses. If you look at the largest 5 motor insurers in Gibraltar, they only pay out 92p in claims and expenses, so 8p of every pound they generate is moved towards profit. For Southern Rock, they pay out £2.86 for every £1 of income that they generate.
So that's nearly 3 times as much as Southern Rock is bringing in premiums. Mr Banks's lawyers told us we had drawn serious and entirely wrong conclusions. On Southern Rock, they said this comparison is not an indicator that is applied to or appropriate to be applied to Southern Rock, because it's not a pure underwriter and has a diversified revenue stream these figures don't take account of. They suggested another yardstick, but only gave us figures for 1 year we were unable to verify. They declined to offer data for previous years for us to analyse. Mr Banks's lawyers also told us Southern Rock's profitability was a matter of public record, and that it made £42 million for the year 2015. But that profit came from recapitalisation, in other words, a cash injection from another bank's business. Another of Mr Banks's businesses has also been the subject of controversy. Mr Banks was the sole director and one of only 2 shareholders in a company called African Compass Trading. It sold a herbal substitute for Viagra called Star 150. Its slogan, naturally, every man wants to be a superman in the bedroom. Even herbal medicines need approval by the regulator, the MHRA. They told us, as part of a criminal investigation in 2014 into the sale and supply of unauthorised medicinal products, they seized around £50,000 worth of Star 150 pills from an address in Bristol. They told us their investigation is closed and, to the best of Newsnight's knowledge, it's not resulted in any criminal charges. Mr. Banks told Newsnight that African Compass Trading shut down 3.5 years ago, owing to, in his words, stiff competition. A few run-ins with regulators and auditors, that's what wheeler dealers do. But politics is a different game. The Electoral Commission is already investigating Leave.eu, a company controlled by Mr. Banks, for its conduct during the Brexit referendum. Newsnight has uncovered disturbing evidence that raises questions about his political funding even before the Brexit vote. In September 2014, Tory MP Mark Reckless triggered a by-election in Rochester and Strood in Kent when he defected to UKIP. 5 former employees told us that staff from Catbrain Lane were asked to go to Rochester to help the UKIP campaign. One was actually there. We've got the number of an insurance salesman who worked for Arron Banks, and we're told he also went to the Rochester by-election. I'm going to give him a ring. His words are voiced by an actor.
We had like a photo, then we're like chaperoning people to the voting thing.
You were chaperoning people to the polling stations, yeah?
Yeah.
Were they UKIP voters or everybody voters?
I'm just trying to think. Well, it was for UKIP. It was all there for UKIP, so yes, I believe they were all UKIP voters.
How many cars came from Bristol?
There was a few of us, about 20 of us, plus.
And how many cars did you have?
Probably 10, 15 cars, I expect.
Were you doing this for free, or were you...
I wasn't deducted any pay for being out of the office, so you could say I was paid for the 2 days I was there.
One estimate of the cost of 15 drivers ferrying voters to the polls would be £9,000, a sum that would have put UKIP's spend over the limit. The Tories, of course, are also in trouble for failing to declare election expenses on a larger scale than this. Mark Reckless told Newsnight, "Neither I nor my agent authorised spending except as was appropriately declared." But we found no record of this spending in the returns. So where does that leave Arron Banks?
It's only lawful if you stay within the regulated procedures for spending money for the purposes of the election of a candidate. If you go outside of them, it's unlawful. On the part of the third party who organised the concerted assistance, Mr. Banks and his company, if they did it and incurred those costs without the authority of the agent, as it appears they may have done, that's called an illegal practice, and it's an offence, it's a criminal offence.
Arron Banks told us all expenditure incurred during the by-election was properly expensed in full and notified to UKIP at the time. But the party's record-keeping, he said, left something to be desired. No prosecution is on the cards because a criminal allegation has to be made within a year of any potential offence. But this story bites because after Rochester, the BBC, along with other broadcasters, gave UKIP and its party leader, Nigel Farage, a much bigger platform. Hollywood loves a winner. The Arron Banks box set may well binge on his business antics, but playing fast and loose with democracy, that may not go down so well at the box office.
John Sweeney there. Well, we did invite Mr. Banks to join us tonight, but we're told he's out of the country. In a statement, he told us, "Since the referendum result and my support for Donald Trump, I've been the subject of politically motivated attacks by the mainstream media and remain supporting institutions. It comes as no surprise that Newsnight would join the party at this late stage with their own particular type of trashy news of the world journalism." He added, "After allegations of me being a Russian spy, part of a worldwide conspiracy to subvert democracy, the only surprise is how long it's taken Newsnight to have a pop at me. BBC fake news is alive and well." End of quote.